I'm Gab, he's Jules. Blue skies over West London, but not blue skies over much of Europe's big teams as Bayern lose, Paris Saint-Germain lose. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Real Madrid lose, Barcelona lose. Yeah. But we're going to kick off starting with a draw because Liverpool and Manchester City, it finishes 2-2. I thought this was one of the best games that I've seen this season in terms of quality, in terms of moments. To help us unpack it, who better than Nadim Unua, who's entirely impartial in this one.
Always.
Nadim, before we get into the game, this was just a spectacle. This was really, really special.
Yeah, 100%. I think when you look at the quality of the two sides and the sort of history they've had over the past few years, it's always a big game because it always seems to be something on the line within that game itself. And for the two varied styles of play, so as you put them together, you never know who's going to be favourite for the game at any particular time. But you do know that there's a huge attacking threat there. And there are always goals. Like, looking back, I was seeing some highlights from recent games, and I thought this has been a really, really good fixture. And in some ways, it feels like this is the Premier League's big fixture now, even though you have the history of United, Liverpool, and so on. For the last few years, it's not really meant that much, but this right now feels like everything for the Premier League.
Now, I thought the game was so aesthetically brilliant that even though he made a big deal of it during the game, after the game, Pep Guardiola didn't even go two-footed on the fact that James Milner stayed on the pitch. Yeah. And look, I think we had nothing but nice things to say about James Milner, modern pro, older. Yeah. He's asked to replace, Trent Alexander-Arnold, who's young enough to be his son. And it's completely different. And he was beaten many, many times, and he resorted to the kind of that last one where Bernardo Silva literally lands on his head. I mean, he should have been sent off several times, and that might have had a completely different outcome. Yeah. There's no debate. We can move on from this, right? There's no debate. Yeah. James Milner should have been sent off, and we might have had a different outcome. But moving on from that, I really like the fact that they didn't dwell on it. Pep didn't dwell on it after the game. Neither did Klopp. They both recognized it, and they both kind of almost stared in amazement at what we just seen.
Although it was interesting, I think, to hear Pep and Nadim, you played at Anfield, and you played the game. The stadium was a bit different at the time, and maybe Liverpool were not as strong as they are now.
Yeah.
But if this game is played during the pandemic, he gets sent off because there's no fans there. Do you really believe that the fans kept him on the pitch, i.e. the referee, I don't know if scared is the right word.
Or was it the old stupid thing English referees used to say, well, you don't want to spoil the game by sending somebody off. No, I want to spoil the game if somebody's doing that kind of thing.
Yeah, if he's deserved.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both. But then to not attack Liverpool, I think that's just a thing that happens with significant home teams in the Premier League anyway.
So not City.
If it was reversed, I think it would have gone the other way. But yeah, you could see it was a yellow card. And I think for a referee, like they say that they've not changed the way the referee based on now with fans in the stadium when there was nobody in there. But when you're thinking about a decision and you could have 40, 50,000 people telling you it's the other one, like come on, that has to affect you. That has to affect you. So just stop lying and just be honest about it.
So we were talking about this before, right? So City have played in rapid succession Chelsea, Paris Saint-Germain, and now Liverpool. All away from home. They come away with 4 points. Arguably, I mean, no disrespect, I know you weren't here on Thursday, but City could have won the Paris Saint-Germain game.
And yesterday.
I thought they dominated the first half yesterday, could have scored several goals, could have won yesterday easily. Do you view the glass as half full or half empty, Nadim?
So for me, I would say half full. And the reason I say that is because as far as football goes, I think at times we can be really bogged down in results. But there are certain times when you can gain momentum regardless of the result itself, because there have been games which you lose. But if you walk off having played well, you feel like there's something to take to the next game. If they would have gone to PSG, gone to Liverpool and been completely outplayed, then there's a significant inquisition that needs to go on going forward. But when you sort of had moments where you've been significantly better, and I say moments, where you've been significantly better than teams who are supposed to be like the pinnacle as such, like, why would you not gain some level of confidence, especially given the fact it's away from home? And when we talk about Anfield, City have no significant record there, nothing whatsoever.
I love that you say that, and I completely agree with you. And I think it's a reminder of the cultural differences that exist in football. Because in Italy, what we say when a team plays badly and wins, said, oh, look, they know how to suffer. They showed that they can take the blows. And I'm thinking to myself, but fortunately, attitudes are changing, right?
Yeah.
What kind of claptrap is this? But you're saying you as a footballer, when you go out there, if you play badly and win, you don't say, "Oh wow, we really knew how to suffer there," until Sean Goder pulled one out.
No.
You don't do that.
Never. Never.
You're deflated
never.
when that happens.
Like a result is a result. That's a good thing. You get the 3 points. That's great. But you know that as far as top level football goes, you won't be able to continue playing like that and expect to get results, because some of those occasions are more so like the exception as opposed to the rule. And I think sometimes we can, from the outside, be like, oh, we did really well there. We defended really well, this, that, and the other, kept a clean sheet. Like, there's a lot of luck involved with that. And I think you'd much rather be a team that can control the game as opposed to one that gets lucky in it, because your luck at some point will disappear. And then when reality sets in, you go on a bad run, you've not got the performance either. So, yeah, for me, it's just a no-brainer.
All right, Jules is cross with me because we're 6 minutes and 11 seconds in, and we haven't mentioned, Jules is all about the technique.
No, it's just...
We haven't mentioned, I mean, there was a bunch of fantastic technical achievements.
Yeah, and performances.
Two that stand out, obviously, Mohamed Salah's second goal and that Bernardo Silva run where he seemed to beat like 6 people all around him.
Yeah.
I was never the most gifted player technically, so I will let you handle this.
I just think that when we celebrate a game like this, and we've said it was certainly the best game of the season so far in the Premier League, one of the best in the whole of Europe this season, it's also because you see those moments. Mo Salah's goal is one of the greatest ever scored in the Premier League, because it's in a game against City, because it's the game is in the balance.
Yeah.
And because it's an amazing individual effort where the way he controls the ball, the way he dribbled past 3 of the City players, then Laporte, and sends Laporte, as Ibra would say, by the hot dogs, and then scores on his wrong foot. And for him, in this case, it's really the wrong foot.
I want to make a point about that, because we followed Mo Salah going back to Basel.
Yeah.
And the knock on him is the guy is completely unplayable when he gets on a run, but he's also completely one-footed.
Completely. It's not Cazorla or...
That's the pass, though. To have the confidence in that moment,
incredible,
to do it with that foot. I thought he was going to pull it back again. I thought Laporte knows exactly what he's doing. He's like, I'm playing him onto the other foot. I mean,
that's what, in a way, Nadem, Laporte defends the right way, but then in such a tight angle, for him to still finish with his wrong foot is just wow.
Yes, it's an incredible finish with his weaker foot. Like, it's not high percentage. I think for Laporte, given the fact that he's not touch tight to Salah already, like, you're just going to, at this point, you're going to do everything you can, but then still just hope for the best. And I think to overcover on Salah's left foot, I think it makes sense. And even though it ends up being on a highlight reel, like, what do you want him to do there? To go half? Like, oh, I know, maybe he won't shoot on his left. Like, it's Mo Salah in the box. You're going to be thinking to yourself, he's going to shoot on the left. But the chop and the shot, it reminds me of when Messi did it to Jerome Boateng, because that was another one. That's
the ankle breaker.
One of those things. Yeah, it's just one of those things sometimes as a defender. Like, my advice to any youngster is just don't be a defender. Just go be an attacker.
It's just the pace. It's just the pace of it that he has. From the moment he controls that ball to the finish, it just goes so quick. It's unreal, and the ball stays stuck to his foot.
Yeah.
And then for Bernardo Silva, I just think, and I'm a big Bernardo fan, and I think one of the best things that City did was actually not being able to sell him, because especially in the last 3 or 4 games, he's been incredible. But that run in the first half, where he's got literally 6 red shirts around him, and the ball is again stuck to his left foot. They can't even get near him, and then he ends up giving that amazing ball through ball to Foden, who then forces Alisson to a great save. I think this is like Maradona-esque, Messi-esque, in the sense that he's there, short player, left-footed, and just perfect with the ball.
Yeah. Hey, Nadim, if you could talk about that, because the thing about Bernardo Silva is obviously he's got a great engine, he's very smart, he's very technically gifted. What struck me about that was he's got all these people around him trying to get the ball off him, including one Virgil van Dijk, who's not having the greatest of seasons thus far. And yet it seems to happen almost in slow motion. It seems to be he's not using his athleticism there.
Well, he's not quick.
It's all skill because he's not quick. I'm wondering about that. As a defender, if you know the guy's not going to get away from you, do you approach it differently? Or is this just all Bernardo Silva genius and it's got nothing to do with it?
Well, thankfully, there aren't too many players like that. I think one that came before, which he seems to be replacing now, is David Silva as well. Because with these guys, like, you've got some dribblers, and what they
I thought you were going to mention King Kladze, given that you're a City fan.
Well, it's a long time ago. It's a long time ago. So with these players, like, some players put their head down and will do a trick and just try and find half a yard. But then other players like Bernardo Silva and the like, who don't really have any key physical attributes, which is what makes this more frustrating, because what they do is they're very good at reading when you move. So if you think you're going to dive in or something, that's when they'll move. If you stand back, they'll come at you. And they manipulate the ball based on what you're doing, not purely what they want to do.
Nadim, it's jiu-jitsu.
To play
it's a freaking martial art, what he does.
Yes.
He sees the opponent and he does a counter move. And that's remarkable.
You know, I always remember, Nathan, just to highlight your point and then let you finish it.
Yeah, we keep interrupting him.
No, it's just I remember when Lilian Thuram played for Barcelona, and
he used to do that stuff all the time.
No. I said to him, like, why is Messi so genius, so special? And he said, do you know what Messi does? Often you've got a forward who comes at you, and the forward knows what skill he's going to use. So he knows he's going to do a step over to try to dribble past you. He said with Messi is so good that he waits for you to make your move as a defender, and then he replies to your move by using the right skill to dribble past you. And I really felt that yesterday, Bernardo, especially on that run, it was exactly that. He had the ball in his feet and he was just waiting to see what Henderson was doing, to see what Robertson was doing, to see what Van Dijk was doing, what Matip was doing, what Fabinho was doing, to then him doing either a little chop or a little outside of his left foot or a little dummy with his shoulder or drop the shoulders or do this and do that. And I just think that if at that level, at that pace, you are able to do that, wait for the defender to do something and then you answer it by doing the right skill, I think it's just incredible.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. And they're the worst players to play against, because for someone like Van Dijk, he's probably twice the size of Bernardo Silva, but you can't get close enough to him to be able to use that force to take the ball away from him. Like, they're so good. And when City played PSG, there was a point where Messi had the ball in the center circle and he was just standing on it and nobody was coming to it. And so I was doing some other TV work and someone was like, oh, just go and get to him. I said, no, that's the trap. That's the trap. You don't go there, because the moment you go there and you try and do something, he's gone. This is a story I've seen 1,000 times over. And some players have that skill, and thankfully it's not a lot of them. Because for me, I always preferred playing against those players who were coming at me and they wanted to do their trick, because chances are they're doing the same trick that I've seen many times before. But when somebody's coming at you and they're waiting for you to make a decision, like, this is why I say, like, when you play against these types of guys, you just can't dive in. Because the moment you do, like, you're gone. The game's there for them, and that's all they want from you.
You know what's absurd is we're talking about Bernardo Silva. As you pointed out, this was a guy who looked to be on his way out in the summer. I mean, very explicitly, very obviously. And even now, if you were to rank players individually in terms of their importance to the team, Bernardo Silva may have moved up a bunch of positions. But for me, at least, I would still have him behind De Bruyne. I would have him behind Foden. I'd have him behind Ruben Diaz. No disrespect to Zach Steffen. I'd probably have him behind Ederson. You could make an argument that he's behind Rodri.
Yeah.
This is what's so remarkable about this City team. It's the number of weapons without necessarily having anybody, I know I'm making a big statement now, other than maybe Ruben Diaz, maybe De Bruyne, who is legit in the top 5 or 10 in the world in their position. I mean, maybe you might have put Ederson in there, but did you know what I'm saying? Like,
but this is the collective strength that
it really is the collective, which is
it's incredible,
which is weird. And I mean, we've talked about this before, Nathan, but Liverpool, again, I mean, we're talking about, we see tremendous individual skill from Salah and whatever, but clearly Liverpool were about the collective as well. When Liverpool won their title by 1 million points, you know, you were saying, "Ooh, who's their player of the season?" Well, Jordan Henderson. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because you know, you've got Van Dijk, you've got Salah. It's hard, and I'm wondering if it's almost counterintuitive that in this era of the superstar, right? We keep talking about this Neymar, Messi, Cristiano, Haaland, Mbappe. Actually, the teams that do better are the ones where you can't really pluck one individual out of it. You could throw Bayern into that mix too, because
I guess so.
Of course Lewandowski's great, but like, you know, and he can't be replaced because they have. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's remarkable what they've built versus, say, I don't want to pick on Manchester United, but other teams that have spent money, or Real Madrid even, right?
Or PSG,
where they are,
yeah.
Paris Saint-Germain, different approaches.
Yeah, for sure. I think obviously you need money to be able to bring in players of that sort of caliber, but you also need that as a strategy as well. I think it was not this week where Bonucci was saying that at Juve they just had an over-reliance on Cristiano, so they stopped essentially doing things the way they did in the past. And I think that's the danger when you have one megastar within your team. Whereas, say, for the collective, you win together. Everybody plays well together. Someone might have a bad day in terms of one aspect, but it's not going to be over the other. If they're not attacking well, they'll be defending well because they know that's how they're going to be successful. And then from there, when you're playing against it, when any single person on the field could be the key person, then you can't say go and double team this guy because you're leaving somebody else open. And it's great. I like it. I like what Liverpool are doing. I like what City have done and all that stuff. And it's great because as well, players we didn't even mention. Say for as good as Bernardo Silva's doing now, how much of that has to do with the fact that Gundogan is injured and he's not playing? And also at City now, Kevin De Bruyne, you say he's probably one of the top 5 in the world and whatever. He's not even playing that well. No. But they're still winning games and they're looking good, because that's the collective. Whereas other teams, I think, would probably try and rely 100% on him to form some sort of magic. But that's not the way that City and other really good teams at this moment work. And I think that is what makes them great.
All right, I want to get to Liverpool in a minute, but just to complete the City debate, I do feel it's not going to be much of a debate because I feel like we are broadly on the same page.
I think we do.
But I think Jack Grealish was the nominal centre forward in this game.
Which is a bit surprising. It was a bit surprising, I thought, considering that against Chelsea and PSG, he was playing in a different position. I don't know why you try him then for that game in that position where he's never played before. That's all.
That struck me as odd as well. Like the big reveal. None of us buy into the whole he needs a real number 9 thing, right?
He definitely doesn't.
And I think, and if they do, I personally think he has one in Ferran Torres who can be that. But what do you make of that? The fact that, let me play Grealish in a position he's never played before. Because, foreshadowing, later in the show, I'm a hammer Koeman for playing Frankie de Jong as a right winger when he's never played that before. But I got to be fair here, right? If they lose this game, I would be questioning Pep's decision to play Jack Grealish center forward when he's never done that before. Or does it not really matter because it's not really a center forward position?
No, I understand what you're trying to say, and I think it is valid. But if we go back a year, I think at some point last season he started playing Phil Foden through the middle. And there was one game in particular, it might have been Chelsea, when they beat Chelsea away from home almost a year ago.
Through the 3-0 at Stamford Bridge,
I think Foden was playing through the middle, and he had a very poor first half. Then I think he got better in the second half. It was either Liverpool or Chelsea this game anyway. And throughout the season, he played a few games there, and he wasn't great, but he was getting better and better and better to the point now where, say, if you put the team sheet up and Foden's through the middle, I understand what it's going to look like. And I think for Pep, he's trying to educate his front line to be able to play anywhere across those 3 positions. But to do that, you need to get the reps in there to do so. And for, say, Grealish right now, like, he's been brought in for the money he's been brought in for, whatever, but he's behind all those other strikers in terms of forwards, in terms of understanding those positions, because they've spent a year doing it. So, like, as I say, to put him in.
So get in the reps at Anfield against Liverpool?
It's amazing that you give him an education in this game.
Exactly.
You still should win the game and play better. I think it's amazing.
But then that's what I'm saying. Like, I mentioned the Foden one. When he first did it, I think it was either Liverpool or Chelsea when he did it last season.
And that took him by surprise.
That's the nature of that manager. Because, you could say pop it in an easier game or whatever, but I think he likes to see the players almost get thrown in at the deep end and see if they can swim. And if they can't swim this time, they'll get another chance to do so. But that game there, this whole week for Jack Grealish could be one of the most significant in his career, because he's going to realize that if he wants to be the top tier, like the players that are in the team at this moment, and to be playing at City and being successful, these are big weeks where you need big performances. And I think he'll react well off the international break and come back in better form, I think.
I kind of assume that he didn't play Foden through the middle because he saw a very obvious mismatch of Foden against Milner.
More the pace, definitely, than Grealish, for sure. Just on the false number 9. And then I swear we will never talk about it ever again. Okay,
sure
but we all
will,
agree.
But
why this is complete. This is a false debate and a complete lie of people saying, but look, Bernardo Silva is there, and if he was a real number 9, traditional number 9, it would be in the box and that would be a goal. Oh, look, Foden is there, but if it was a real number 9, it would be in the box and that would be a goal. Oh, look, a traditional number 9 would do this and that would create another chance. This is a false debate because City play that way exactly because they don't have a traditional number 9. So what Bernardo Silva brings you, or Foden brings you, or Grealish brings you in that position, or De Bruyne brings you, is also because they play with no number 9s. Put a number 9 in there and City would play differently, create chances in a different way, and maybe you would have more fullbacks involved like they used to before when Aguero was at his best, and little overlaps and cutbacks and all of that, which they don't do so much now because they play with a false number 9. Everything that your false number 9 brings you, by definition, a traditional number 9 would not bring you. So what you gain with a false number 9, you would lose with a traditional number 9.
I mean,
so it's so. But I cannot even understand the debates of people saying, yeah, they should have signed a traditional number 9. They should have signed a striker because, look, they would do this and this. No, they wouldn't.
I'm just going to say two things to this.
It bugs me so much.
Liverpool have been the other outstanding team in the Premier League, right, for the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Their recognized centre forward has either been Roberto Firmino, who's anything but, or Diogo Jota, who's a winger playing in the middle. If we really have to go and insist on labels. The other thing, yes, they pursued Harry Kane, but they pursued Harry Kane because he's a phenomenal footballer, not because he's a phenomenal centre forward. I think that should be pretty obvious. If that had been the case, they would have gone and they would have brought a guy in there for as a plan B. And I think they might still do that, maybe in January or whatever, but I think that's the benchmark that they're using.
Sorry to just say something about this if possible. So this Harry Kane saga that went on during the summer, there are two ways that I see it. And I think firstly, if City really, really wanted him and felt their season hinged on getting him, they would have gotten him.
Oh, come on.
That's the first thing I think.
I think Daniel Levy might... Oh, wait, so you're saying they didn't really want... It's a bit like Cristiano Ronaldo. They want him, but only on their terms?
Yeah. But then the other side of that debate is with Harry Kane, people saw him in a Man City shirt and they thought City are going to be scoring 10,000 goals a season with Harry Kane in there. So when they didn't get him, the feeling is like when you see somebody on a game show who's potentially going to win the biggest prize and then they don't get it and they walk away and they feel like they've lost, but they haven't lost anything because they never had it. And to add to that, the team that they had at the start of this season was a team that just won the Premier League with a new addition. So why is it that some people perceive City to be in a worse position now because they didn't sign somebody who they never had? They've not lost Harry Kane, yet still the feeling is like they did. So, like, how is this even a thing? And they won't be able to do what they did last year. Why not? Literally, why not? What's changed in football that they won't be able to do that? When you look at, say, we talk about false nines, forwards, all this stuff. City will have 5 players on the field who are all capable of scoring maybe 10 goals a season, probably more. 5. How many other teams have that luxury when they start a game? Yeah. How many teams have that?
But it goes back. When Pep won his first title, if I'm not mistaken, the year Yaya Toure scored 20 goals. And they have 4 guys who scored 20 goals that season? Something like that. So I want to move it on to Liverpool because I thought this was really important for Klopp, the points, the confidence. I was really impressed by after a first half where you can turn one around. You're at home, you get absolutely battered. You say bad first half. I'm not even sure Liverpool were bad as much as it was Liverpool City being really, really good.
Yeah, but the two go together.
They do, but it's sometimes the other team batters you because you're bad, and sometimes it's because did he do something different at the start of the second half, Nadim?
Did they do something different?
Yeah, or did it? Was it
higher
just
to start with? They were far too deep in that first half.
Was it just arousing? But were they deep, or did they choose to be deep?
No, you see, Klopp said 2 things. Klopp said he spoke about this after the game, and one of the things he said was that they made it too easy for City, and the back line was too passive. And because the back line was passive, it meant that was what the field sentiment was all throughout the field. So when City were moving the ball, Liverpool were playing into their strengths. And he said they needed to be more aggressive in terms of the way that they sort of would step out from the back and not encourage City to do what they want to do. And then obviously the fact that you're at home and you've done that in the first half, that'll play into it as well. But it was good because, as I say, Klopp was talking tactics. He was talking about closing this space, closing that space, doing this, doing that. And that's good because he's showing that he's a manager who can be reactive to what's going on the field because something needed to be changed, something needed to be done. And I think he did that. And he also said, as far as keeping the ball, he said they played some long balls, but only maybe 2 or 3 of them were the right long balls. He said to the team, you need to take longer on the ball and look for a pass before you start going wherever. And that in some ways just shows that, you might have been getting pressed by City, but then also it's still a big game. It's the occasion. They were doing things which they don't normally do. And he basically told them to calm down and look for the right things, which they've done consistently throughout the last few years, and get back to who they were. So that was the change. And then before you know it, as soon as the team, I think the way football works, which maybe goes a bit understated, as soon as one team takes a forward step, it's very hard for the other team to do the same. So the ebb and flow of a game kind of goes like that. So City, for example, they didn't play as well in the second half as they did the first, but a lot of that's to do with Liverpool playing better than they did in the first. Two teams can't just really be going end to end like that for 45 minutes because it's football, it's not basketball. You know what I mean?
And you saw him, you could read on his lips during the first half when he was really unhappy. He kept saying to them, be brave, be brave. And I think Nedum is right. At halftime, he must have said to them, listen, you have to play more from the back than we did, because City's press, as we saw against Chelsea, and Chelsea could not deal with it, was good in that first half, and City were by far the better side. And I think in the second half, and as we saw on the first goal, I don't think Fabinho plays the ball he plays to Salah on the first goal before Salah goes onto the run and then the pass for Mane in the first half. I think in the first half, he's under pressure, he plays that long. Instead, he plays that to Salah's feet, and then it's Salah 1v1 with Cancelo. He goes the little dink over his leg, and then goes. The ball to Mane is perfect, and the Mane's run is perfect too. But I really don't think that goal happens in the first half. It's because Klopp said to them, be more brave, be braver, use the ball better. And I think they did that. And then the second goal, as we said, you can't, this is a goal from somewhere else.
I think, though, if you're Liverpool, you come out of this feeling good about yourself, and not just because, like we said, the result and the fact that there was the Rodri block on Fabinho at the end, which could have given you 3 points. You're outplayed by maybe the best team in the world. You know that you came back, you got back into it, you came close to winning. You know that you did it without Alexander-Arnold. And I would also add, without Thiago Alcantara, because I think this was a game which really would have been made for him. And having him in the middle of the pitch, we might have seen a different game, or maybe it wouldn't have taken that level of heroics from Salah.
I mean, you saw when Trent is not there, how different they attack.
It's completely different. Ugly coda to the game, and then I want to ask you about your celebrity friend. There were reports that there was the Manchester City, in fact I just got it now, that they're going to report that they were spat at.
The staff, they're really close to the first rows of Liverpool fans at Anfield. You sit really close to them, and apparently, they were spat on by fans.
Okay, Nedum, times you've been on the bench and stuff, how often does this happen? Does it happen more often than we realize, or?
No, not very often. Like, the spitting is obviously disgusting, but there's certain levels of abuse which happen at certain places more than others. And with this Liverpool thing, like, obviously the clubs are rivals, but then there's the whole Liverpool-Manchester sort of hatred anyway. So that thing that manifests itself every time there's this sort of game. Like, a lot of people I know over Liverpool way don't want to see Mancunians heading over there, and vice versa. So this game has that little bit extra. And then when you're seeing it's City, you're seeing it's Pep, all that stuff, like, it's that whole sort of sense of tribalism within football. And some people will do stuff like that because they literally, like, they love their team, but they hate the opposition. Like, they hate them with a passion, the same way you could hate the most hated person on planet Earth. That's who Pep is. That's who Man City are to them. And sometimes when you do travel around the country, you do get that. Like, some people don't like you, but then there's certain rivals. So whether it's to do with geography, history in terms of football, but yeah, that type of thing does happen. And
this isn't going to have some sort of, I mean, this will result in some kind of fine or something. It's not going to have any kind of knock-on effect. It's not really anything to go and, like, I don't want to minimize it, but I'm saying...
No, but what I think is, I mean, this is disgusting anyway, but in England especially, you saw in some stadiums, so lucky for the fans to be so close to the pitch and to the bench. Why are you going to ruin it like that by insulting or spitting on people when you're such in a strong position to watch a game? You can watch Guardiola and clubs.
No, that's the thing. That's what you forget. That's why some people get those seats. It's so they can be that close to the bench, so they can give abuse out to the people who come and try and play at Anfield. That's the ironic thing about it. Some people go there for a great view. Other people go because it's a great point to just go and just reach out and just hammer whoever they want to hammer.
Nadim, you have a podcast of your own, and you
Yes, I do.
recently,
Amazing podcast.
you recently had a chat with Noel Gallagher. Is it fair to say, is he the most famous City fan in the world?
Yeah, surely.
You mentioned somebody else, but I think I'm pretty sure it's him. I'm pretty sure it's him, yeah.
I was just curious in your conversation with him. He talked about his music. You didn't just talk about football. I'm wondering. Okay, I'm going to try to say this in the nicest way possible. No, if you're a footballer, a retired footballer in your case, I wonder if there's a parallel between that and being a musician, where you kind of, I don't want to say you necessarily peak, but yeah, in some ways, you have the peak of your success in your 20s, maybe early 30s. It often happens. And then afterwards, and especially with musicians who record a phenomenal album and write phenomenal music like he did, does he feel like he's spending the rest of his life trying to live up to that? Or is he just not bothered?
No, so when I spoke with him, he was like incredibly mature and incredibly chilled out. And he's not bothered about trying to be as good as he was, because he's very confident in who he is right now. And obviously they had huge success when they were in Oasis, but now he's got his own band, which has been going on for 10 years. And the thing that he really enjoys at the minute, he said he'll just get his guitar and he'll just start jamming along to something. He's just creating so many things. And I suppose that's the difference between, say, football and music and so on. Like, music could be however you want it to be. You could see it however you want to see it. You're creating your own sound. You're doing your own thing as and when you please. Whereas with football, like, I could go and get a ball now and start doing some keep-ups or something, but it's not going to give me the same joy as somebody who's making sounds.
No, also because your body deteriorates, right? You might be smarter than you are when you were playing professionally. You might be as good technically, but physically, obviously, there's a decline.
With Noel as well, he said that obviously for Oasis, that's where lots of their big success came, but he's better now than he was then. And that's another big parallel. Yeah, literally, because he's like, he never confesses to be the best guitarist, doesn't confess to be the best singer, but he's singing now, whereas back then he was just, was reciting lyrics essentially. So that level of creativity can come with time. This is a man in his 50s, but if you come to me in my 50s and say, right, you need to go and try and defend against somebody, I'd be like, no, thank you, I'll just stay indoors. That's the way it's going to be.
I'm disappointed you didn't mention to him how good singer you are, as we saw on the show, and all the listeners know already.
I went bigger than that though, because I used to play, I still kind of play bass guitar. So I told him that I was actually jamming to some of his songs at the lockdown at the start of the year with my kids and the amplifier and all that stuff. So instead of, talking about the singing thing, I talked about something I can actually do. And he was like, oh, that's really cool, in a very, he's trying to be nice kind of way.
Be polite.
He's Noel Gallagher, but still, it's a nice moment.
He wasn't like, hey, send me some tracks, man. Like,
I can produce you.
Imagine how many times he said that. Yeah, I'm really, really good bassist. If you ever need a bassist, please, I'll look after you.
Nadim, it's been a pleasure and a privilege. Thanks so much. How do you banish high rates on car insurance? You switch to Geico during Geico Ween. Man, I love making that sound, by the way. Let me do it again. October is Geico's favorite time of year, and Geico has been working even harder to cast out high rates on car insurance and craft just the right coverage for you and your family. But here's the thing you may not know about Geico. They could also help you uncover more savings when you bundle the other things parked in your driveway, like your beloved motorcycle, boat, or even home away from home, your RV. Geico could even help you save on homeowners and renters insurance. So visit geico.com today and you'll see firsthand that switching your insurance coverage doesn't have to be scary. The only thing that will haunt your nightmares is seeing just how much you could have saved if you had switched sooner. Geico. 50 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Happy Geico-ween! All right, enough City, enough Liverpool. How about some quick hits instead?
Let's go, Gav.
From bad to worse for Ronald Koeman and Barcelona, as perhaps, not surprisingly, they fall to Atletico Madrid, 2-0. Jules?
So I've taken a decision, Gab. I will not say this man's name ever again. So I will call him the Barcelona coach or manager or the Dutch guy or whatever.
Jordi Cruyff's friend on the phone.
I've had enough. I really have had enough. I mean, yeah, you're right. This is not a surprise. They lose to an Atletico side who have not been playing well, but are better than them. They still have a lot of players missing. But my word, some of the decision that the Dutch guy has made for this game, like playing De Jong as I'm not even sure what kind of position that was.
It was the
winger,
anti-Carrasco position.
And
and then
it was
what
dreadful.
was funny was he puts him out there, presumably off the ball, making runs, whatever. But then that's where Carrasco, Lemar, and João Felix all operate from.
Yeah, and that's where the
absolutely
threat comes
destroyed
from.
them.
Exactly. It was so stupid. Everything was stupid. Yeah, they had a lot of the ball, could not do anything with it. Atleti were a lot back to the old Atleti, and that worked, and Lemar was brilliant. One of those days where Lemar, it reminds you how good he can be, but I've lost all hope until that guy is sacked and they bring anyone. I don't care, anyone would do better than that.
So
I promise you.
Barcelona, very quick to point out, yes, it's international break, but no, he's not going anywhere. Sid told us that it's because they can't afford to sack him. But they're also certainly not supporting him because, it was just last week when I think it was one of the vice presidents came out and described the ideal Barcelona president, and it was like a photo negative of
manager,
Ronald Koeman.
That's Benfica was bad already in midweek.
Can we give him some positives to the Culé? No. Coutinho started, created a chance, and then of course the genius takes him off to put on Fati. No, nothing wrong putting on Fati.
No.
Ansu Fati getting fitter.
20 minutes. He got this time with 25 minutes. Yeah, it's better than the 10 he got the other day, but.
Araujo, when he doesn't play next to Mingueza, is okay.
Oh, he's the best defender.
All right, there you go.
I'm not sure that counts as positive, Gab.
But
not sure.
Is Memphis finding his kryptonite now?
The poor guy. I feel for him as well. Luis Suarez didn't celebrate his goal against Barcelona, the second one, though he obviously had something to get off his chest with that telephone gesture.
Yeah, later he was kind of denying his, just reminding friends to tell the same number. Yeah, no, for those who missed it, this is clearly a reference,
of course,
to that phone call with Ronald Koeman. I can still say his name.
Yeah, the Dutch guy.
Koeman, in less than 2 minutes, told them, "Oh yeah, you're no longer wanted here." I kind of want to give Koeman a pass for this one because it was obviously not his decision. It was a disastrous.
But there's still a way to do it, yeah.
Whatever. There is a better way to do it. Although, frankly, if you had to go in and give Suarez the bad news, he's a bit intimidating. For all you know, he's going to jump on you and bite you.
But it's not even your fault, so it's easy.
I would have, if I was Koeman, I would say, listen, I'll talk to him, but let me go with the director of football, whoever it was at the time, Abidal or whoever. Let's sit down. And at least it's 2-1.
And Barca was the only team Suarez in La Liga that he hadn't scored against. So that must have also been like, hey.
And which is why he didn't celebrate the way he usually does. Paris Saint-Germain, meanwhile, lose at Rennes 2-0, despite the big three up front. Jules, is this a big deal?
So I was at my sister's wedding, as you know, so I didn't see anything. I'm glad I didn't. No, I'm kidding. I had to watch it late last night, and there were 20 good minutes. 20 good minutes where Messi hit the bar.
Did Neymar already leave for international break, and he left some
his brother, or his cousin? I think it was. He was already thinking about, going back to Brazil, what I'm going to do, seeing the family, his sister, all of that. Because Neymar didn't turn up. Apart from that 20 minutes where I thought Messi was good, hit the bar, Mbappe had that chance, that big one-on-one, but no shot on target in the end, and they conceded just before the break, just after the break. Rennes had nothing special but solid, and we said PSG had been on a thin edge in the league before, and this time they paid for it. It was not good enough.
8 wins out of 8 before this.
Yeah, but still. Lead. With so many big teams losing this weekend, Gab, obviously Bayern didn't want to be left out. So here they go, at home, being beaten by Eintracht Frankfurt.
So many, many years ago, when I was a child, I used to live in Frankfurt. I do have a bit of a soft spot for Eintracht.
You do.
So I am delighted, and I'm delighted for Jan Åge Fjørtoft and whatever else.
And Kevin Trapp.
And Kevin Trapp was phenomenal in this game, not one of my favorites. But I do like Hinteregger and Filip Kostic. I think you might find that they're two special players. But guys, you replay this game 50 times. I don't know how often Frankfurt wins. Neuer did have to make a couple big saves, but Bayern outshot them, controlled the game, missed a bunch of chances. Trapp stood on his head. Not something I think to be concerned about, but well done, Eintracht.
Of course.
Napoli do it again, beating Fiorentina away 2-1. Jules, they are the only club
Amazing.
in Europe's Big Five leagues to be perfect thus far. 7 wins from 7 to start the season against a tough Fiorentina side.
Who took the lead as well and gave them a good game in that first half, and then they came back and won. And I love the character. We mentioned that before. I'm getting worried about the African Cup of Nations at the start of next year, because you will lose Koulibaly, Osimhen, and Zambo Anguissa, who are arguably your most outstanding players this season so far. So Napoli and Spalletti, just get as many points as you can in the first half of the season, like Atletico Madrid did last year, 50 points in the first 19 games, and then you're going to slow down, because missing those 3 is going to be huge, and we will talk about them in the next quickly too. And then you can manage the second half of the season. But that's when I watch them play, I'm saying, okay, what is this team going to be without those 3? That's my only worry. But it's one for later. And sticking with Napoli and those 3 players, the Sono is at the end of that game. Koulibaly, Osimhen, and Zambo Anguissa were racially abused as they walked off the pitch by the Fiorentina fans.
Yeah, and Koulibaly, I mean, the other 2 kind of like smiled and walked out. Koulibaly, like, credit to him.
Yeah.
He
He's
called
done
them
it in the
out.
past too.
He's done it in the past. I think this is how you need to react.
Yeah.
It seems to be like the trend has changed. Like, people don't get racially abused during games. It seems to be before and after. It seems to be individuals.
Juventus
like the
Milan,
idiot Juventus who
Mourinho.
filmed themselves. By the way, Juventus said they're going to find him, identify him, name and shame him. We're still kind of waiting
That's
on
gone
that.
quiet, doesn't it?
Credit to Fiorentina. Joe Barone came out afterwards and said, this is absolutely a disgrace. We're going to find this guy, blah, blah, blah. Good for him. That is the right reaction. This is what I want to hear from clubs when it happens.
Yeah.
Not like, oh, it's only a minority, but no, this doesn't reflect our city. Enough crying. Nobody's saying that.
Yeah.
If it's a minority, show that you can control your own stadium, especially if you know it's individuals, especially if you know there's video. Go get the guy and ban him. Hopefully Fiorentina will lead the way on this one.
Yeah.
Manchester United are held by Everton at Old Trafford 1-1. Cristiano Ronaldo came on, played the final 34 minutes, and looked grumpy at the end. Jules, there are many reasons to be critical of Solskjaer, starting with a goofy lineup with Pogba and Sancho on the bench.
Yeah.
But is his handling of Ronaldo one of them?
So in a way, I'd say no, because he's 36 and he can't play every single game. He played the whole 90 minutes and more because he scored the winner against Villarreal in the Champions League in midweek. But the issue I have is with Ronaldo's face, because what's the deal if Ronaldo is not happy to miss this kind of games before in an international break where he can say, listen, I'm going to rest. It's not if we were playing again on Tuesday or Wednesday. So it looks like Ronaldo was not happy to be on the bench, not happy to come on late, for the last 35 minutes.
Not happy with the result at the end. It would
Yeah,
have been the main
but maybe
reason why
he's
he
not
was
happy with
angry.
that kind of deal of you're not going to play, especially again in a game like this where he could have played 70, 80 minutes, they're 2-0 up, then he comes off and then he rests for the next 10 days because it's a national break and they're not even in the Champions League semi-finals.
I love your scenario where Ronaldo starts and it's magically 2-0.
Well, no, but
You got
they're
this
better
much
with him
faith
than
in
without
Rafa
him,
Benitez.
for
No,
sure.
of course. I agree with you. I've just been struck, and I touched upon this before. I think Solskjaer, everybody liked him as a person.
Yeah.
And now, moaning about referees here, moaning about Klopp there and the penalties. Now, after this game, he's like, oh, well, I know why I didn't start, and he knows why I didn't start, and you don't understand why, blah, blah, blah. I mean, just leave it. I mean, honestly, there's a
You
great...
liked him more humble.
Absolutely. One of my all-time favorite sitcoms is an old sitcom called The Larry Sanders Show. And there's this one where Hank, who's the goofy kind of sidekick, he gets Larry's unavailable, so he guest hosts the show. And he's humble and he's nice and everybody likes him. Then the next one, he starts behaving in a very unpleasant way, and suddenly nobody likes him.
Yeah.
Solskjaer's treading a thin line.
Yeah, you're
He's
right.
much better when he's likable, Ole,
Yeah.
than when he goes and starts picking fights.
Yeah.
Just remember, you're not Mourinho. It doesn't work for you.
Real Madrid fall to Espanyol 2-1, and Carlo Ancelotti says it was their worst performance of the season. Gab, this comes just a few days after the defeat against Sheriff in the Champions League.
Yeah, people are going to tie the two things together. Big difference against Sheriff. They played really. They played well. They should have scored 4, 5, 6 goals.
Right, they could have.
They could have easily done so. Here, they were really, really poor. Now, we also have to give credit to Espanyol. Sergi Darder in the middle of the park was fantastic. Our man RDT.
RDT, of
right?
course.
Did you see what he did to Nacho?
Yeah.
Man. Equally, Carlo reshuffling. It feels like he's always reshuffling things.
I know.
We saw Alaba move to left back. We saw Casemiro drop, which I think
Lucas
is a good
Vazquez,
thing.
and we said Lucas
Vazquez at
Vazquez,
right back.
never again, we said.
Kroos and Modric together in the middle of the park. Benzema did score a great goal, but I thought this was a fully deserved defeat
Yeah.
for Real Madrid. Arsenal are held to a scoreless draw away to Brighton. Jules, even Arteta said this wasn't on a par with their previous performances. Is that more because Brighton are actually really, really good and more of a team?
Yeah, Brighton are good. They've got 14 points in 7 games. They're 2 points behind the leaders in the Premier League. They're good. They're good collective strength. We talked about collective strength earlier with City. They're good collectively. And Arsenal, this is a game they would have lost last season and the season before. Just the fact that they kept clean sheet, 0-0 away from home, is good for them because it's a positive result. Nevertheless, even if they didn't play well, and
if Emile Smith-Rowe sees Bukayo Saka at the end, then they win this game.
Milan get a huge win over Atalanta to stay second in Serie A on Sunday night. It was a fantastic game, I thought. Pioli said that his young players are not playing like youngsters. And what does he mean by that? And by the way, I thought Maignan was again fantastic.
Maignan was really, really good. Kept them in it.
Yeah.
Milan, though, also creating a ton of chances at the other end. I think what Pioli means is that these guys are mature. They take their licks, they pick their spots. Rafael Leao I thought was really good again. Theo Hernandez going forward, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Tonali being a Brescia guy means so much for him to score against Atalanta. Look, Maignan did make some big saves. You see the 3-2 result. You also have to remember those 2 goals came at the very end. And were kind of distinctly against the run of play, I thought, by that stage in the game. But they're right up there. They're competing legit for the title, 2 points back. Still no Erling Haaland, who was in the stands wearing the whitest hoodie you'll ever see. But Borussia Dortmund beat Augsburg 2-1. Jules, are you impressed?
No, at all. Still not. I mean, they scored early, the first goal, Rafael Guerreiro. And then after that, I'm just always left a bit like, okay, what more can you show me? We've talked about this many times. I'm not, but they won. It was important, especially because Bayern lost. So
Augsburg are a really bad side. And also, memo to Marco. When Haaland's not there isn't like an off-brand Haaland that you can replace him with. If you have to stick Malen up front, you have to play different.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
They're
and
not
they
there
didn't
yet.
do that. A late Manuel Locatelli goal gives Juventus 3 points in the Turin derby. Their 4th win in a row in all competitions. Gab, is Allegri starting to get it right? Are we seeing the Juve now?
I thought they played better against Torino. But again, it kind of plays into their hands. Torino under Juric playing very progressive, very attacking football. That makes Juve comfortable. Now, in their defense, there's no Morata, there's no there's no Paulo Dybala. And it's big that Locatelli wins, and he's very much becoming a leader. And it's great, Locatelli, Chiesa. But still, they're not imposing themselves on games. And right now, that may not matter. But that is where Allegri wants to get to. Spurs endure protests against owner Joe Louis before the game, but end up beating Aston Villa 2-1 as Heung-min Son steals a show. Jules, this was a major potential banana skin. Can we show Nuno some love?
Well, yeah, it was, because as we saw, Villa against United played well away from home the weekend before. I thought when they came back to 1-1 in the second half, I thought Villa were going to come and win that one and nick that one. But Spurs reacted well, I thought, after that equaliser from Watkins and finished the game well. And it's just, I don't think it was perfect, far from it, but it was such a big win in what they needed, especially after the Arsenal humiliation a week ago. So
we know what happens
good
when
on
it
them.
breaks.
Exactly. The Athletic reports that when Tottenham appointed Nuno in the summer and gave him a 2-year contract, it was actually really a 1-year contract, the second year being triggered only if they finish top 6. The club denies it. If it's true, though, Gab, it's pretty clever from Daniel Levy.
It's very clever. The Athletic standing by their reporting on this one. I have no reason to doubt them. It is. And I'd like to see more clubs doing this.
I agree with you.
So that we don't see clubs trapped by enormous contracts. Yeah. Bayer Leverkusen destroy Arminia Bielefeld 4-0 away. Did you like how I went all Derek Ray there? To join Bayern at the top of the Bundesliga table. As you know, Jules, I don't believe in goal difference, which is why they're level. Have we been sleeping on them a little bit? Are they better than we think?
I think so. I think so. I think Gerardo Seoane, the manager who did a really good job in Switzerland before and replaced Peter Bosch, of course, is doing a great job. I mean, Florian Wirtz is fantastic. Moussa Diaby, Paris born and bred, but he's the best winger in the Bundesliga right now. Here you go, I've said it. And even Patrick Schick is scoring.
Did you say he's the best winger in the Bundesliga?
That's exactly what I said.
Do I have to send Serge Gnabry around your house?
Please do. I think Moussa Diaby right now is certainly more consistent than Serge Gnabry. And talking about consistency, even Patrick Schick is consistent. I'm like, whoa, what's going on? So I think they're good. I don't think they're still good enough to beat Bayern over the whole length of the season. And also, they play in the Europa League, which I think is more tiring than playing in the Champions League and all of that. But they've been great to watch, certainly. I think they beat Celtic 4-0 at midweek. They win again 4-0 this weekend. It's pretty solid. Thomas Tuchel makes a bunch of changes, and Chelsea eventually beat 10-man Southampton 3-1. Gab, what did you learn, if anything?
So, well, first of all, I thought it was interesting because we talked about people resting players before international breaks. Obviously, it was necessary. I kind of think, but you wonder about why would you rest people, as you pointed out when we were talking about Cristiano earlier, before they're going away. I think he just wanted to assess what he had. And of the guys who came in, we're talking Hudson-Odoi, we're talking Chalobah, we're talking Ben Chilwell, the forgotten man, and of course, Ruben Loftus-Cheek. I thought Hudson-Odoi played really well. I thought Loftus-Cheek played really well. Of those guys, I think Hudson-Odoi might have the biggest long-term upside still, but man, Loftus-Cheek is different from the other midfielders. Exactly. If he can get some consistency, and I feel for him because he's the guy, I'm not going to draw a parallel with Pogba other than height, but those guys where they're tall, if you're tall and you're a central midfielder and you're technically gifted, if you don't always perform at the best, it's not because you didn't perform, it's because you're lazy. He's had the tag of lazy, just like Pogba's had the tag of lazy.
You're right.
Because these guys stand out. And it's as simple as that. If he can stay fit, I think he can be a valuable weapon. I'd still be a little bit concerned that Southampton, who basically sold everybody who wasn't nailed down in the last couple of years, they can still really give you a game, still in the game until James Ward-Prowse gets sent off. That, for me, should be a little bit more of a concern.
You know what? I wonder if Tuchel regrets not playing Loftus-Cheek against Juventus, because when he came on against City, he played really well. And then I think a lot of us expected him to be given a chance against Juventus, and yet you didn't count on him, and then played him there, and he showed what he could do. So it's interesting how you deal with players.
They have to stay fit, but I think over the course of the season, especially since Saul still hasn't shown us anything, I think you're going to need Loftus-Cheek. Maybe you might even need Ross Barkley as well, who did a couple good things when he came on too. Watford sacked Xisco, and according to reports, will appoint Claudio Ranieri to replace him. Jules, how excited are you?
We all love Claudio. We don't know anyone who doesn't like him, maybe apart from Raymond Dominic. But apart from that, he's good. Sampdoria, he did a decent job. We can call it decent. Not amazing, but not bad either. Again, this can't be long term, so I'm not sure why you go for him, but we know.
You say it's not long term because it's Claudio or because it's Watford, or both?
I think a bit of everything, but we know, how the Pozzo family manages their club, so we'll have to see. But I'm glad he's back because I think he's always great value for the Premier League.
And the number of managers in the Premier League who have won the Premier League has just increased by 50%, from 2 to 3.
Exactly. Inter get battered for an hour or so, but eventually beat Sassuolo 2-1 after Inzaghi makes 4 changes in one go. Gab, this was a bit fortunate for him, wasn't it?
Yeah, as you know, when people managers make a bunch of changes, turn the game around, like, oh, how smart was he with the change? To me, it looked like, we're kind of screwed here. Let me just change everybody and see what happened. Sassuolo were phenomenal. Your boy Jeremy Boga, Maxim Lopez, all these guys. Berardi, they had this new guy, Alessio Dionisi, who's their manager. I thought, okay, you're filling the Zerbi. Those are some big shoes to fill, right?
Big shoes.
Man, they play so well. They keep the ball, they attack you, they press you at different times. He plays this game, he leaves Raspadori and Scamacca on the bench, two of his best strikers. And still they dominate. Inter very, very lucky. Handanovic make a huge save. Handanovic should have been, in my opinion, sent off for bringing down Grégoire Defrel outside the box. But then Dzeko comes on, scores a goal, wins a penalty, bish bash bosh, it's 3 points. If you're Inter, you're still concerned. And you're realizing, I think, Çalhanoğlu does not fit this team at all.
But how last season we said about La Liga and the lack of new young managers coming with their idea, that the bunch of managers was not really evolving. I love that in Italy this is exactly happening. And if De Zerbi left, it's still brilliant to see those new guys.
Italiano, if you're in team, is the other obvious one.
And they're playing good football and great, and they bring those new ideas, and then that has an influence on the other managers in the league who are maybe more experienced and more mature to also evolve, which you don't have in Spain. And I think that's the reason why Serie A is going up when La Liga is going down.
Do you think 2030 World Cup final, Italy versus Germany in the final?
France?
No, it's got to be Italy versus
France?
Germany. No,
Okay.
I want to see Germany managed. So I want to see Italy managed by Domenico Tedesco, and
yeah.
Germany managed by Vincenzo Italiano, and everybody's heads.
Oh
just
my
exploding.
God!
How cool would that
Close.
be?
Thank you very much.
I know you love your Super Classico and your Marcelo Gallardo. So, Jules, you must be delighted that River beat Boca 2-1.
And because the Julian or Julian are all
Julian
great.
Alvarez, yeah.
Oh, and Julian Alvarez with 2 goals, of course. The new, he's 21, so he can't be like a
that
wonder
new.
kid anymore. But
Already failed the trial at Real Madrid
the
a few years ago.
prodigy, no, he's not going to fail anywhere. This one has great destiny ahead of him. 2 goals, the first one especially magnificent. Well done, Julian. No relation, of course, but still good.
Yeah, Gallardo, I got to ask you, since Gallardo has a Liga pedigree, he is the one outside of Europe, right? Where we're very navel gazing on Europe, right? We always say the best manager in the world outside of Europe. Okay, it's Chiche. And then after that, we always bring up Gallardo or Gallardo, right? I know European clubs have definitely looked at him.
Yeah. I think.
Why does he?
I think he's this January. I'm
Really?
telling
You
you,
think that
this
early?
January. I think with River, he finishes
Manchester United,
up to
yeah?
December. I would love him at United. I would love him in France. I would love him at Barcelona. I would love him
To replace
in Italy.
Pochettino, maybe?
Right? Behave. But yeah, I think he's got a great future ahead of him. And the next step is in Europe. And I can see why he wants to finish this season, because I think River can achieve great things this season. And then it would be time for him to go.
I've had people tell me that he doesn't necessarily have the appetite to come to Europe. He doesn't necessarily. He says he's happy where he is.
Yeah,
in
no,
a
maybe.
comfort zone.
I do think there's some offers that you can't refuse.
Barcelona?
I would love that to happen. He'll probably be upset that we're leaving him so late in the show, of course. But Gab, how about showing some love for Jose Mourinho and Roma? They beat Empoli 2-0 and are 4th in the table. They're playing Napoli not next weekend, the weekend after, when we're back from international break. And Pellegrini signed a new deal until 2026 too.
Absolutely huge. Pellegrini, of course, Roma, born, bred and buttered.
Yeah.
So I know it's just a
So you
weird
continue all the captains, Totti, De Rossi, Florenzi, Pellegrini, all Roman born and bred. I love that.
I'm not from Rome, so I don't understand those people. They're different cultures to mine. But it really matters to them. Really, really matters to them.
Does.
And it's great news because also Pellegrini is a phenomenal footballer. Tammy Abraham, he's hit the woodwork 6 times already this season.
6 times?
Pretty amazing, huh? But no, a win over Empoli, as you'd expect. No aftershocks from the Derby defeat.
Yeah.
And I think Mourinho, I think top 4 is a legitimate target for Mourinho this season.
Yeah.
Bit of breathing room for Jesse Marsch. It's Leipzig beat Bochum 3-0, and Christopher Nkunku bags another 2 goals. Jules, he now has 9 goals this season. Everybody's so excited about that Adeyemi guy in Salzburg.
Yeah.
Well, this guy's doing it in a better league without all those penalties.
I know.
Now, that said, I find it absolutely wild and crazy that he has as many caps for France as I do.
I know. Listen, Didier, if you're listening to this show, and I know you do, please explain to us why Guendouzi is in your squad, why Adrien Rabiot is in the squad, even why
Tony Marshall.
and why Christopher Nkunku has still not been capped by France. I don't get it. I don't know if Deschamps doesn't watch much of Leipzig games, maybe. I don't know if he doesn't know exactly what his best position is, because it's a...
Do you think
plays
he
in a
remembers
certain
him
way.
as a defensive midfielder at Paris Saint-Germain?
I don't know.
He says, well, I have Conte. I don't need this guy.
But I don't know.
He doesn't play that position
Deschamps
anymore.
is so dogmatic in a way of players need to have one position, and they say, and we don't really evolve, and there's not much fancy tactically. And then Nkunku is the opposite to that, because he can play everywhere. He's so good. He needs a bit of freedom. Maybe that's the reason. I really thought this was going to be the international break where he will call them up.
Well, I don't know what to think of this guy. He keeps calling the wrong Hernandez brother, right? I don't know if he gets them muddled. because they don't
now
even look
finally
the same.
they're both in there, so that's good. We're happy.
So he can realize who the good one is and who the bad one is.
Or maybe he's just thinking, okay, this is the Nations League, it's semi-final, it's a big game with Belgium, then potentially the final against either Spain or Italy.
So that's why I need to have Guendouzi there in case it breaks down into a
That's
fight.
to make the numbers, but maybe next month, when we go back to the meaningless World Cup qualifiers, then maybe Nkunku will have his chance. Let's hope. that's all we have. Let's hope. Real Sociedad took on Getafe last night on Sunday, thinking they might go top of La Liga table, given their opponents had lost 7 in a row. That's Getafe, yes. And Gabi finished 1-1. And once again, we're here saying, Real Sociedad missed out on an opportunity to win a game and go top of La Liga.
You talk about sleeping on somebody. Oyarzabal, of course, scored and came up big again. I thought Real Sociedad deserved to win this game. And I'm sorry for Getafe. I have a weak spot for the manager. But they deserve this. I think they're tired. They're running on fumes. But still, they create more chances than the opposition. I hope it wasn't stakes right. I'm just loving this La Liga because, you've got Sevilla up there as well. Yeah. The way things are going, this could be one of the tightest leagues in Europe, or not the tightest league in Europe. So I look forward to seeing them play again. And they've got injured players to come back as well, which I think is always very big.
Always big.
Serge Aurier is being closely linked to Villarreal after having his contract with Spurs rescinded. Good move for him. And by the way, can we now tell the story of what happened at Tottenham?
I just think, I don't think Nuno counted on him at all.
But it's very rare to have a club cancel somebody's contract and the player agree, right?
I think they tried to sell him, but once they could not sell him before the end of the transfer window. He had 1 year left on his contract. They were not going to play him. They made that clear to him. He wanted to go somewhere where he would play. He's not the kind of guy to stay for a year just to take his money not playing, which I think he deserves credit for that. So it was a deal that suited him too. And now Unai Emery knows him, of course, had him in Paris. And I think Villarreal could be good where you're more attacking minding than defending, and Villarreal could do with a right back too. So it makes a lot of sense.
Do you know he was offered to Arsenal too?
He was offered to the whole world, I think.
How cool would it have been if he joined Arsenal?
Yeah, I mean, that would have been cool. Ugly story from the NWSL in the US, Gab. Lisa Baird, the league's commissioner, has resigned after he emerged at complaints from players who felt they were harassed and sexually coerced by their coach Paul Riley at the time were unheeded. So basically the league closed their eyes, and Lisa Baird did so.
She was one of several commissioners in this period. Paul Riley, he's English. He's been working in the US for a long time. The early stories, he denies all the charges. What I find most disturbing here, and obviously the players will, hopefully there'll be a full investigation. Or he said he denies most of the charges, whatever that means. Obviously this is terrible. This is a workplace environment. What I'm not clear on is, okay, so they reported this to the NWSL and things were slowed down, covered up, and whatever else. And I realize they do things a bit differently in the States. But if this were to happen in a European league, you don't just report it to the league or to your club. You report it to your association. Yeah. So the U.S. Soccer Federation, which I believe also at the time was also, if not a part owner of the NWSL, also helping to run it, I'd love to know, did they report it to them too? Because they're the ones who should be in charge of the disciplinary side. The league just runs the league. Of course. And they should be, with something this serious. I don't know. I just hope the truth comes out. I don't think women's football needs scandals like this. If it brings out better practices, then hopefully it'll lead to something better in the end, because nobody should have to put up with this. And big shout out as well to Alex Morgan, she not only came out and she used her pedestal as somebody who is famous and said, no, look, they say this wasn't reported. Well, here are the emails and stuff, putting out screenshots of it. It's very important, I think, that she take a stand as well. And kudos to her and Megan Rapinoe. Yeah. Now, Jules, what is it with nobody wanting to go top in La Liga? Sevilla could have also moved into first place, and with a game in hand, no less, with a victory over winless Granada. Instead, they contrived to lose. They managed to lose. They missed some big chances, to be fair to them. They also lost their centre-back, Diego Carlos, who got sent off right at the end of the game. You could sense the frustration from Sevilla, I think, because they knew this is a great opportunity for them to go top and to put a stamp, in a way, They were not good in midweek against Wolfsburg. They should never have got that penalty at the end to draw 1-1. I thought it was a bit better with the ball this time, but again, missing chances and seeing the frustration growing, is, in a way, it makes it even more exciting, as you said, because La Liga is even more tight at the top, and it's even more
interesting, but that was a big one, I think. Big one missed by Sevilla.
Yeah, they'll look
Win
back.
that one. Yeah,
And
definitely.
by the way, I think they'll end up having another. I think their game after the break also postponed.
And Real
So
Madrid and Atletico Madrid's games too.
it's a
So
bunch of postponed games.
that's going to be a nightmare, Gab, to reschedule everything.
These
and
are all
stuff.
Champions League teams.
Yeah. Lazio lose to Bologna 3-0. Francesco Acerbi gets sent off and then does something really stupid on his way out. And then he redeems himself. Gab, what happened exactly?
So Francesco Cerbi is a real class act and a gentleman on the pitch
Yeah.
and off it. Right? He plays center back, he gets sent off, he gets wound up. But he always comes clean and he always apologizes after. What happened here, he gets sent off, and as he goes off the pitch, it looked like he was giving people the finger.
Yeah.
Now, initially claimed that I think his finger was trod on or whatever, and he was showing them the finger. And then afterwards he says, even if it's true, he says, this is nonsense. He came out and he said, I apologize to my fans for getting sent off. I apologize to the opposition fans for that gesture. This is how grown-ups behave.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
apologize in real time through your social media channels. You do it in front of a microphone. You do it in public. You certainly have enough of a platform. So
Yeah.
well done, Acerbi. I have no issue with you
Me neither.
whatsoever.
Me neither.
Jules, this was first reported last week, and magically it comes true because it's funny how same people seem to have access to this information at a time. But FIFA and the British government reached a deal whereby players traveling to what are considered red list countries, countries which the United Kingdom considers at risk in terms of the pandemic, even though weirdly they often have lower infection rates in the UK, but that's another issue. These are mostly in South America and Africa. They
Yeah.
won't have to quarantine in a hotel for 10 days when they return, provided they're fully vaccinated. Obviously, last time a bunch of Brazilian players, some Argentine players,
Could not go.
able
Yeah,
to go.
yeah.
This is common sense.
Well
finally,
done.
right?
Finally.
You got there in the end, yeah?
In the end, since July, we've been banging on about, hey, don't forget, there might be a problem. Come in September, come in October, come in November. And in September, they didn't do anything. They did nothing to prevent that mess. It was a mess that ended up in that Brazil-Argentina
Fiasco.
madness. Fiasco. That's the right words. Now, finally, they grabbed that chance to make it right. And it was not that hard, was it?
No, it wasn't that hard. It wasn't that hard. It's amazing.
It's amazing. UEFA and CONMEBOL announced that they will play a game between the champions of Europe and of South America next June. So Argentina against
could be
can't remember
Italy,
who.
maybe?
Someone. Yeah, maybe Italy, maybe.
No, and then it's going to be a game to honor, apparently, the rumor is it's going to honor Diego Maradona.
Yes.
And will be played at Diego Maradona Stadium in
Which
Naples.
would
Very
be
cool.
lovely. Not just that, though, Gab. They will also open a joint commercial office in London. And opening offices outside of Switzerland is clearly very popular, as, according to the New York Times, FIFA are thinking about opening one in New York. Your thoughts?
I think these are all complicated machinations to do with the tensions between FIFA and UEFA,
Yeah.
the Biennial World Cup, all this stuff. I think these organizations want to make themselves more commercial, so obviously you makes sense. You go to London, you go to New York.
Yeah.
I think in the case of FIFA, there's another element to this. From what I've been told, the appeal of opening an office in the US isn't just to be closer to sponsors and whatever with a view towards 2026.
Yeah.
It's also, if you go there, you're under US jurisdiction. And they know that they have a tarnished image because of everything that happened before 2016 and
Yeah.
the corruption and whatever. And they say, I also know that in Switzerland, this is the place where people were hiding gold. Let's not ask too many questions, numbered accounts. But if we do this in New York,
Yeah.
we're going to have the local DA
Yeah.
scrutinizing everything, and we're going to have more credibility
For the image.
as a
Yeah,
result. So
fair
I
enough.
think that's a part of it
Okay.
as well. But the row over the Biennial World Cup rumbles on. I think you'll see more developments in the coming days. Former Marseille owner Bernard Tapie has passed away, age 78. Jules, in good or bad, he marked an era of French football.
That's right, Gab. One of the greatest characters that we've ever seen in French football, maybe the greatest, and I think in football in general, for the good and the bad. The good, of course, is what he did with Marseille, and he was the president and owner there between 86 and 94. They won league titles, they won the Champions League, of course. That was tarnished by the fact that he was found guilty of bribing games and buying players, the Valenciennes one. There's rumours about others, of course. He But he was something very special, and he still inspired generations and people in Marseille. He was also a minister, as in government. He was an actor, a writer. He had 1,000 lives, and he lived life to the full. And yes, he had flaws, and not everything was perfect. Far from it with Bernard Tapie. But he was an incredible guy. Cycling, he had success. There's a lot of things that he did and touched that he had success. But he also collapsed from his pedestal and all of that. It was just incredible, and everybody's sad, especially in Marseille, of course, where there would be a chapel at the Velodrome Stadium, all sorts of mourning and ceremonies and all of that. And I think, although he was Paris born and bred, but he will forever be Mr. Marseille, and football in Marseille will always be associated to Bernard Tapie.
Do you don't view him as a loser and a sellout and a traitor that he's Paris born and bred, and rather
That's
than
too strong.
buying Paris Saint-Germain and making them
I
great?
try to don't think about it.
Okay.
Thank you. Iñaki Williams sets a new La Liga record by appearing in his 203rd consecutive game for Athletic Bilbao, while Fabio Caguarella scores for Sampdoria in their 3-3 draw, making it 17 top-flight season with at least one goal. And I think in midweek, Benzema and Messi also scored for their 17th consecutive Champions League season. Loads of record. Which one is the most impressive?
I love the fact that we managed to mention Quagliarella in the same breath as Benzema and Messi. It's Iñaki Williams. Because if you see him play, this is not a goalkeeper.
No.
If you see him play, he goes at 1,000,000 miles an hour, full on out. I don't understand what he's made of. He's like the bionic man. 203 consecutive games is just incredible. I mean, what is that? That's more than 5 seasons
In a row without missing a single game.
I mean, that is just simply unreal.
And also, he always looks like he's 21. But you know he's not. He's 28 now, something, or 29. But he always looks so young. So
He never
even more
ages.
surprising. Yeah.
Right, that brings us to an end. But we're going to be back on Thursday because it's the Nations League. Yes.
Yep.
More silverware. Ooh, who's in the semifinals? I think Italy in one, France in the other.
Yes.
Should be good. Should be good. Until then, love the game, love your neighbor, love yourself.